All right, so for this one, we're going to discuss breakpoints in terms of how to resize your site depending on if you're on mobile or you're on tablet or you're on a larger screen or a smaller screen. So just to tell you something here real quick, if we go to Tailwind, the documentation, so they have a bunch of documentation. I would always recommend checking out the documentation of Tailwind. It will tell you how to do everything. But what we want to check here is mobile responsiveness. Let's see. Um, it's not what we want. Let me see here. So there's different ways to accomplish this, and we'll just go over one of the ways right now. We'll have multiple modules of this, but when you come here, you see responsive design. So when you're doing responsive design, you can use these classes, or I guess these breakpoint prefixes, to prefix your classes. And I'll explain what that means in a second here. But basically, what you have is small, medium, large, extra large, 2XL. So those are the screen sizes. So small would be a mobile, and medium would be probably tablet. Large is probably regular size computer. Maybe XL is a big screen, and 2XL is like a big extra monitor. But so let's get into what and how this can actually be used in practice. So let's say you have, let's just try some different things here. So let's say you have a div, just one div, and it will make it width 96, height 96, and just give it a background color so you can see what that looks like. Because if you give it a height and width, but you don't give it a color, then it won't be any different from the white screen that it's on. So let's make it a little bit colored here. There we go. So you can see it right there. You can see the thing. I don't know why it's in the middle of the screen, but we'll have to live with it. So what you can do here is if you resize this, or this is maybe not a good example, but if you resize the screen here, one second. Basically, what I'm trying to prove here is that, okay, see how when you do that, it doesn't fit. So what we can do is we can say that we keep it as we can make that the width normally, but then what we'll do is we'll say what. Okay, so how this works is what you set as your standard, what your standard width or your standard size of a container is should be sized for the smallest screen possible. So if we want to make it for, we start from mobile first and then we work up towards a bigger screen. So let's say it's width 20 20. So give it a width 20, and so that fits on a mobile screen. So that's small. But let's say we want to on a larger screen. We want to. So let's say we want to on a small screen. So the next size, we make it width 28, and then medium screen width 44, and then large screen width 52. And so when you resize this, it should change. See how it changes there? See how the size changes? So so basically that's what you do. And so there's different ways to do that. So that's how you do it just for one div. But let's say you wanted to do, we'll get rid of this. We'll make this width full height screen. Okay, so we have a full thing there. I don't know why that top bar why it's putting it right in the middle of the screen. That's probably because of a CSS. Yep, that's because of a CSS thing here. Yeah, okay, now it fits the whole screen. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add some divs inside of it. So let's make it a grid. So a grid, so right here we set grid and grid calls. So this is the grid calls is what we're going to, is how you do this. So we set it as a grid, and we're going to say grid calls 2. So as a default, there will be 2 columns in this grid. And we're going to create those sections right now. So div class equals background white, height 40, width 40. Okay. And yeah, close the div. You always have to close everything you make, you need to close. You need to have an opening and closing tag. So that's how you do it right there. And then you will copy this here. And so what you're doing here is you can see that this is in 2 columns because we have grid calls 2. But what we can do is, so if we go to a bigger size screen, so let's say medium, grid calls 3, and large grid calls 5. And so now watch, if you make it bigger, it'll spread it out. So that's how it works. So now it's mobile responsive. So that's how you make something mobile responsive if you do a grid. And then I also showed how you do it for if it's just one div. So for a grid, if it's a grid, you use the those prefixes to make it to start at the smallest screen. So apply it like you do it for a small screen, and then work up towards a big screen. And then same thing goes for a div. So you do it by sizing the width. You change the width manually. So you make it, the width would be 20 on a small screen, and then medium screen width 30, and large width 40, and those kind of things. So that's how you do that. That's how you make something mobile responsive. Yeah, and we can do more videos about this, but this is just a decent idea of how you do that. And yeah, thanks.